Oversharing is such a common part of our culture that people don't even realize just how much it's stopping them from accomplishing their goals. In this video, I'm going to be talking about why you may be an oversharer. As a former reformed oversharer myself, these tips have really greatly helped me in making sure that I keep information on a need-to-know basis with specific people in my life. It also allows me to accomplish a lot of the goals that I've set for myself. So if you want to learn how to stop oversharing, keep on watching. Okay guys, so I grew up as kind of like a shy, quiet person. For me, during periods of times in my life where I felt very lonely, I would try and seek out connection with other people, other strangers, by oversharing details about my life. I never let it get too far, but I know as someone who has energy where people feel comfortable with oversharing with me, that it can be something that makes you feel a lot of embarrassment when you catch yourself. Like usually it happens after you've already overshared, already said way too much, and given a stranger or even someone who's close to you way more information that they need to be privy to. First of all, I want to talk about the consequences of oversharing, because I feel like that way we can kind of work backwards into why you may be an overshare. The consequences of oversharing result in you feeling embarrassed, feeling so incredibly vulnerable in a negative way, because you feel like this other person now has leverage because of the information that they've gleaned from you, that they could use that information in a way to harm your social appearance, to harm your reputation. You may also feel even lonelier than you initially expected. Usually when people overshare, they're doing it for some of these reasons. The first reason is because they are not fulfilled in their own life. You may be lonely and not have other people that you feel like you can fully intellectually or emotionally connect with in your actual life. And so that causes you to seek out this like validation from other people. And I think there are two types of oversharing. It's oversharing with strangers and oversharing with people that you are close with, because I feel like that is something that people neglect. Of course, in these types of videos, usually when people are talking about oversharing, they're talking about, you know, the dangers of oversharing with people who you are not familiar with and who aren't close to you. But there's a side of oversharing that actually occurs when you are close to people. For example, if you are in a relationship with someone and you are talking to your friend about your intimate life, you are talking to your friends in detail about maybe the trauma that your partner has gone through, just details and information that they really do not need to have information about. Whenever people are in romantic situations, if you don't want, like if there's something that you are keeping to yourself or whatever secret or information that you are keeping to yourself, if you do not want the whole world to know, it is best for you to just not tell anyone. Because the truth is that a lot of people that you do tell your information to will tell their close friend. Even if you say don't tell anyone, that close friend is not considered as anyone. So they're gonna tell and tell your secrets to them. Oversharing can be a result of you just being lonely and seeking out connection in any means possible. And the worst part of it is that it's not gonna actually fulfill you and give you that emotional closeness that you're looking for. It's gonna be momentary. And when you leave that conversation, you're gonna feel like you've divulged way more information about yourself than what the other person gave you. I mean, that other person is not really doing anything wrong because you're just dumping on them. So that's just something to realize. Another reason why you may be oversharing is because you're seeking external validation for whatever issues or stressful situation that you're going through. And that is such an unhealthy way to cope, because what you're doing is dumping and trauma dumping and over divulging information about yourself to another person, and in this case, a stranger who has no skin in the game and may not even want to partake in this conversation. I've been on the receiving end of many oversharer, and usually people who overshare with me are never my close friends. They're never people that I have in my close circle. They're always strangers, and they always tend to be either men who have not worked through their own emotional situation and basically trauma dump on me and give me the responsibility of being their therapist or their sounding board, or they're women who have other people to talk to, but just like the feeling of getting validation from another person about whatever they're going through. It's honestly kind of egocentric to be an oversharer when you think about it. You're not thinking about, whether the other person is even capable of receiving the amount of information that you're dumping on them. It's not a very considerate thing to do in the first place. Another reason why you may be an overshare is it's a way for you to manage your stress. When you're not managing stress properly, it seeps into other aspects of your life. So if you're someone who is like a busy doctor or something like that, or you just have a very packed schedule or busy student, you feel like you need to let other people know about what you're going through, when the reality is the sort of validation and comfort that you're seeking from these people and these strangers is never gonna fill you and fulfill you and make you feel comfortable. Because when you leave, as soon as you leave that situation, you feel a little cringy. You're like, damn, did I really even need to say all of that? And a lot of the times, no, you didn't, okay? So now that we've covered a little bit of why you may be an overshare, let's talk about how to fix it and why it's important to fix it. First of all, being an overshare is just overall just not considerate of the other person. A lot of times, the types of information that people do overshare, the receiving person is not even able to give you a solution. So what you're doing is very self-centered, actually. And it's actually hard to come to terms with because we feel like, you know, we're looking for some sort of connection, and you're looking for some sort of like emotional connection with someone doesn't keep an even ground. Another way in which oversharing can be harmful is by harming you. So another consequence, aside from feeling embarrassed, is just that it leaves you feeling out of control. Now that you've finally divulged this information with this person, even though you may get a momentary feeling of maybe levity off of your shoulders, it ends up leaving you feeling out of control of what that person's going to do with that information. But I'm not saying this from a holier than thou perspective. It's something that I have gone through and sometimes find myself slipping back into that. Another consequence of oversharing, especially if you overshare things like your goals or intimate partner situations with close friends or with strangers, is that, specifically here, I'm going to be talking about with close friends and people that are close to you, is that now that they have this information on you, and I hate to make it sound like it's that like devious or anything, but now that they have this information about, you know, your partner that you've told them about, that maybe paints your partner in a poor light, but it doesn't show the true picture of maybe the situation or anything like that, they are going to be holding that kind of over you. Do you know what I mean? And so it has this negative ripple effect in your life with people holding you to whatever you told them. And if you overshare things like your goals, people are now going to be holding you accountable. And while that is a good thing, I think for a lot of people, shutting up about your goals is actually more beneficial than telling people and having them hold you to that standard. If you go back in my channel, there was a time when I made a video about wanting to level up for the summer, for that specific summer. I can't remember what year it was. I didn't achieve a lot of those goals. So while I was holding myself accountable publicly by oversharing this information about myself, like my weight and the amount of weight that I wanted to lose and like these things, while I thought I was holding myself accountable to a public, you know, to the public, it wasn't enough of a motivator and it wasn't enough to get the discipline that I needed to actually accomplish those things. And that may be what you're facing too when you're telling people like, I want to start a business this year, or I want to be an actress, or I want to start getting signed by a modeling agency. People are now going to be like on your ass about like, okay, so have you achieved that? Goals are not something that, you know, you start from zero and immediately attain, because attaining goals takes time and it takes failure and it takes pivoting and changing your strategy. It becomes like this burden on you. And so not only do you feel like you didn't live up to your own expectations, but now you didn't live up to someone else's expectations that they really did not have any interest or any need to participate in. Do you understand? And that's why it's so important to just learn how to be your own sacred space and your own comfort. I think that in order to be a successful individual in this world, you need a host of different types of people in your life. That doesn't mean you need to be friends with everyone. That doesn't even mean that you need to be acquaintances with everyone. I don't agree with that. I think you need to be an exclusive person in order to succeed. But it just means that you need to be able to know who are your friends and who are your foes. Who is going to support you and give you actionable like help when it comes to getting to where you need to go, and who is going to actively try and harm you. Here's another thing. When I say don't tell people about your goals, I'm not meaning like, for example, if you want to be like a PA, right? And you want to be medicine or become a doctor. Some parts of becoming a doctor and getting into medical school include being able to tell people about your goals, being able to tell the doctor that you work with, like, hey, I want to go to medical school. Can you write me a letter of recommendation? You need to be able to know when to tell people information about yourself and when to tell people information about your goals so that they can help you and they can assist you. How to fix oversharing. Number one, you need to learn how to be okay with your own company. This is easier said than done. And join your own company gives you the ability to discern when someone is good for you and when they're not. And that way, you're able to be your own emotional safe space because you care about yourself, you talk to yourself with respect, you respect your body, you respect your time. Things like that will cultivate the sense of self-confidence that cannot be shaken. And because you rely on yourself, you're less likely to seek out a stranger to tell all your information to. It's like having a sense of self-awareness. And the real cure for oversharing is just being more cognizant of your emotional state, okay? Whenever you have to be aware of what makes you slip into doing this. Is it when you're stressed? Is it when you're tired? Is it when you feel lonely and you don't have anyone to talk to? And another thing that you can do is journal. It can be daunting, annoying, like you're just tired of hearing the same thing, but it's so insane how helpful journaling is. I think it's so valuable to be introspective and take time out of your day to kind of sift through your feelings and how certain events that maybe happen in your day or in your past has affected you. When you're able to easily identify that, it makes it easier to understand where there are any issues, any gaps that need to be filled, whether that is through by creating deep, meaningful friendships so that your emotional needs are met in a bunch of different ways. Another thing that I suggest is therapy. I've been going to therapy for how many months? It's for about 4 months, which is so insane. I started therapy as a way to fix a lot of my issues surrounding relationships. It's not easily accessible for a lot of people, but please check with your employer. Usually they have programs and like HSA things that you can do to be able to get access to therapy. To me, I see therapy as a tool and as a means to an end. I do not plan on being in therapy for the rest of my life. No, the healthy mindset that I have now for the most part has been through researching and through watching videos and learning from other people who know more than I do. So even if you may not have access to therapy, it is important that you seek out information from reputable people who can help you develop a better self-esteem and self-confidence and healthier outlook on life and relationships. I don't think anyone should be in it. This is just my personal opinion. For eons and for decades, I think if that is the case, then you're probably not going to a good therapist. They should be able to give you the tools and be able to match you and how you are so that you can apply that when issues arise in the future, because they always will. It is so important to have everyone on a need to know basis. If you're like me and you love to chitter chatter and just talk and talk and talk and talk, I will literally talk forever, but only to people that I'm really close to. I don't talk like that with strangers. I'm quite reserved when it comes to people that I'm not familiar with. My issue has always been talking way too much with close friends and then feeling kind of dejected because I expect them to do that emotional labor for me and kind of wallow with me. And it's just not fair to place that expectation on people and your friends. But yeah, it's so important. It's so important. I really hope this video was valuable to you guys. If you found it helpful, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel and hitting the bell so you are always notified when I post a new video. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!